Uber and Lyft drivers, what's your most NSFW story? Story 1. This one isn't really NSFW, but it's the reason why I stopped working for Uber. It's about 10:30 p.m. I get a request and accept it. It's a 20-something-year-old girl just getting off work at a retail clothing store. She needs a ride to her home, about 35 minutes outside the city limits. Cool. Long ride equals more money. Get to her house, she gets out and I drive away. Now, I'm about 25 plus miles away from the city, so I don't really expect to get any hits out there. I'm about to head back in when I get another request. This one is another 30 minutes further outside the city limits. Maybe this person wants to go downtown. That's an hour-long ride equals $$. And down. Start heading their way. It's a beautiful night, so I cruise the whole way with my windows down. Long, winding, narrow roads. No street lights for miles. Finally, I come across the property. It's a ranch-style place. I turn in. Still no lights. Pitch black. I drive in for about 2 miles with no signs of a house. I'm doubting my GPS at this point. Oh well, I'm already this far. Keep going. Oh cool, a house. No lights on. Something doesn't seem right. I swing my car around to face the exit, leave my car in drive and rest my foot on the brake, just in case, and waited for a while. Nothing. Let me give the guy a call. He answers. Sounds confused. Hey, I'm your Uber driver, I'm outside. Take your time. I'm here whenever you're ready. Uber, I didn't request a ride. I'm at #50 Texas. Your address and information comes up on my app. Texas, I'm in Indiana. I've never been to Texas. Please don't charge me. Hangs up. In that moment, I felt the already pitch black night get darker. I turned down the radio. My window was still open, and so I started listening. You know that sound of a dirt road when somebody is walking on it. How it crunches and you can hear every step. Imagine that sound, but there are 2 sets of feet, and they're running. Getting louder. I look out my rear view mirror and the only light is from the red parking lights of my car. 2 men, all black clothes painted red by my brake lights, sprinting. Getting closer, getting louder. I slammed on the gas, my car threw pebbles and rocks at them as I semi-burned out, and I hauled ass as fast as I could out of that property. Got back on that winding road, followed it all the way to a well-lit gas station, shifted to park, and sat there, stunned. What just happened? I tried following up with Uber. Nothing really came of it. To this day, I'll always have to wonder what happened that night. Story 2. Not totally NSFW, but I just this Friday picked up 4 college-age guys from a bar around 1:15 a.m. who were on their way home and teetering on blackout. It was a surge fare of 1.8 and a ride of about 8 miles of mostly highway, so I was pretty pumped to make an easy 10 minutes $20 in 15 minutes. We finished the bulk of the ride when the most intoxicated of the group springs to life and says, "Dude, you do want Taco Bell." I think he mixed a request with a statement that he wanted Taco Bell. I said sure, as I wasn't going to be staying out much later and thought it was sure to yield a tip in cash. So I take them to a little plaza that contains a gas station, a convenience store, and of course Taco Bell. This is when that same guy sprung to life once again to say, "No drive-through, let's go in." I told him no, but he said he'd give me $10 if I waited, so I reconsidered. They step out of the car and this guy huddles his friends for a few seconds before they break off into 3 different directions as the drunkest guy half slumps and leans against my back bumper. One rushes the Taco Bell and returns with 4 $5 boxes. Another hits the gas station and comes back with White Owl cigarillos. When the final man returns, it's with a roll of paper towels, some sort of rivet things, and sticky tack. The drunk guy then unravels the entire roll and shoves it into one of the barf bags that I keep in my back seat, and they get into car for the last 3/4 of a mile home. Drunk guy is fiddling with it in the back as I talk with the guys about sports and other banalities until I pull up to the house they live in about 2 minutes later. As I pull in, the drunk guy says, "Done," and then slumped onto his buddy's shoulder. He hands me $10 and grabs the bag containing the paper. He looked me right in the eye, and with an incredibly serious tone he broke through his intoxicarian for one sentence and said, "You must always remember to recycle," and then passed out to the point that his friends had to carry him. I then got to see what this blacked-out genius was up to, a device for smoking multiple blunts that was so precisely made. Holes were equidistant, lines were clean, etc. They invited me in to test it, but I had to be on my way. As I drove off, I wondered what this person would be like in the light of day. What does a sober version of this stoner engineer do? What else is he capable of? Hey guys, are you enjoying the video? If so, please like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyways, back to the stories. Story 3. I picked up an elderly lady in my 3 Series BMW in a rather sketchy part of Memphis at about 8 a.m. on a weekday morning. No big deal, right? She gets in and says, alright, I need you to take me to work. But first we gotta go to the liquor store. I say okay and start toward the nearest liquor store, thinking she is just picking something up for after work. On the way there she mentions she works for a repossession company, and that they work for a car dealership that intentionally sells cars to people that can't pay for them. She says she wants to swing by an address on the way to work to see if there is a car she needs to repossess located there. She says the cars usually have GPS, but she thinks the car's owner has disabled the GPS. We arrive at the liquor store and the lady goes in and comes out. She gets in the car and before I can ask her not to drink in the car, she has downed an entire pint of vodka. At this point I can't even be mad, I'm flabbergasted. Laughing, I ask the old lady if she even had a chaser. She pulls out a Capri Sun, stabs it with the straw, and starts drinking it. She says, you probably think I'm some sort of alcoholic or something. I reply, I don't know if you are or not, but at least you're up and am this morning headed to work. Then she starts directing me back into the sketchy neighborhood to search for a black Chrysler 300. I make it clear to her that I am only a driver and that if we find this car I am not getting out of my car. She agrees and says she'll just call a tow truck if we see the car. As we're cruising this really sketchy area looking for the car, she is getting more and more drunk as the alcohol seeps into her. She keeps asking if every black four-door car is a Chrysler 300. I'm wondering if she even knows what a 300 is. I notice we are getting strange looks from the people we drive by as we head down a long dead-end street with a shady-looking gated apartment complex at the end that kinda looks like the street from the movie Training Day. We reach the end and go to turn around and I realize again how sketchy we look cruising around here. If the cops saw us they would assume we were looking for drugs or intercourse or something illegal. I notice again that everyone sitting outside the apartment complex is staring at us like we are an elephant in the room. I guess she senses my discomfort, or maybe she had to be at work at 9 a.m. because she says, okay, now I feel like I'm ready to deal with these motherfuckers. Let's head to such and such sketchy car dealership. So we get close to the dealership and she says park over there and produces another pint of vodka and Capri Sun from her bag. She downs half the pint, mentions something about saving some for later, punches a straw in her Capri Sun, says time to go to work. Have a nice day and exits the vehicle. I'm just sitting there like WTF. This was a seriously hardcore old lady of probably 65 or 70 years. Or maybe she just looked old BC she drank so much. Was a pretty nice fare though, with all the driving around we did for an hour. I forgot the part about saving some for later. I edited the text above to include that part. So sorry to disappoint everyone. Old lady only drank 24 ounces of vodka in my car, not the full 32 ounces. Story 4. While I've had a few crazy rides, my buddies takes the cake. Around 1 a.m. on a Saturday he gets a ping that's at 200% surge near the bars. He picked up a well-dressed man who's sober and once he's in the car he asked to be taken to the casino. He was picked up in Dallas and the casino is in Oklahoma. Feeling bad he warned the guy, are you sure that's a 70-mile trip and you're on 200% surge? Guy says it's fine and he's happy my buddy is getting paid. They enjoy a nice trip and have some normal talk, and once they get to the casino my buddy ended the ride and netting himself $300. The guy then realizes he doesn't have a ride home so he makes a deal with my friend. Look, I'm gonna go gamble for a few hours if I give you $250 now, will you wait? And when I come back I'll give you another $150 for waiting and another $500 for the trip back. Buddy agrees and takes a nap until guy I'd done. Guy comes back and gives him the cash and they head back home. During the small talk the guy says, look, you've been great and seem like a stand-up guy. I want to throw another $500 your way if you let me suck your junk. This dude wanted to pay my friend $500 just to suck his junk. When you ask him what happened next he just laughs and says, well, rent was due and if the worst way to make $500 bucks is pretending a chick is blowing you then it's not so bad. Story 5. Not an Uber, Lyft driver, but I did drive for a taxi company. I had a fare where two drunk people who were making out in the back of my cab. This isn't unusual on its own. Happens quite often. Just gotta stop them before crap gets out of hand. Well, one of them decides to stop making out and says to me, don't tell anyone. Okay. Curious, I ask why. He responds, we are cousins and we don't want our family to find out. Then they went back to making out again. I didn't once think they could have possibly been cousins. Never saw either people before or after. Could have just kept his mouth shut and I'd never have known. Why would you disclose that information to a stranger? Story 6. There's a photo of this on Reddit that I posted and deleted when it happened, but I can't find it right now. Not me, but a friend who also drives in my city picked up this drunk girl on her bachelorette at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. She was going like 4 blocks but was so drunk she passed out the second she sat down. He pulls off and about 30 seconds later she craps in her sleep. She's wearing very short shorts so it just falls out both sides. Being that she's passed the frick out, he drives her to her hotel anyway, with the windows down trying not to vomit. When he gets there, she kinda wakes up, and in the process of getting out manages to smear crap on his back seat, on the back of the front seat, on the inside roof, on the outside roof, and on the door. She says sorry, throws him $20 and disappears. Uber gives him $250 to clean his car, charged to the crapper. The next day he gets an email from Uber saying she called them all pissed off because why did she have to pay a soilage charge when she already gave him $20 to get the car cleaned. Story 7. I got the ping around 4:30 a.m. When I get to the address, I see this girl who looks startlingly like the actress that plays Ginny Weasley standing in the middle of the street waving, so I stop. Yup, she's my passenger, and she is so drunk, and carrying an enormous glass full of red wine. She asked if she could bring the wine in the car. I told her no because we'd both be arrested. She said okay, then I'll chug it. And she did. Okay, so she gets in my car and I drive her maybe 6 blocks away to a friend's place. Her friend hands her a grocery bag of miscellaneous crap. She tells me to drive her home. Or, wait, ugh, I don't want to go home. Just drive around until I figure out where I want to go. Sure, free money. I start driving circles while she drunkenly calls everyone in her phone. Unsurprisingly, no one answers, and she really doesn't want to go home, so we just keep going in circles. I've reminded her at least 3 times that this is costing her money. I have no problem with it, but are you absolutely sure? Yeah, no problem. Money doesn't matter right now. The conversation is one of the more hilarious and utterly weird I've experienced. Of course, she's so drunk that her speech is entirely slurred and I can't make a lot of it out. But I get enough to know that she's not only drunk, but she's been doing pot and cocaine and she's on the longest bender of her life, currently day 8. She was recently fired from her job at a marijuana dispensary and is in the process of suing them for wrongful termination. Her dad committed suicide when she was 4. She had like 3 friends die in various ways within the past few years. Something about being an AA but falling off the wagon. Her mom is so rich but doesn't want to give her second house to her own daughter. WTF. She never wants to marry because she has yet to meet a dude who is not a horrible person. But she happily did it with pretty much all of them. Has been pregnant twice and contracted who knows how many STIs. Really wants to work in forensics someday and start her own business. On and on and on. I don't mind listening. It's like having a primetime drama show unfold in my backseat that I'm getting paid to watch. Around 5:45, after over an hour of driving, she said that there's a bar she knows that opens at 7 a.m. If I'm okay with driving aimlessly until then, I assured her that I am. I can take her there. So another hour and 15 minutes of wandering later, I drop her off at the bar. She thanked me profusely, called me boo, and told me to have a good life. And to top it all off, she tipped me with an entire container of marijuana edibles. Story 8. I work for a company similar to Uber. Oftentimes you have to play therapist for drunk customers. They will lay out very personal details about their lives to you. One customer told me about how her ex-husband has been hospitalized several times due to complications from alcoholism, and that they told him that the next time he comes in, he'll likely die. She told me that she really hopes that the father will die before her 17-year-old son turns 18 because she doesn't want him to have the responsibility of having to decide to pull the plug. Another ride started with the customer asking if I played Overwatch, and within 5 minutes she was crying and telling me about her friend who committed suicide. One ride I couldn't find the window button. We drive the customers home in their own cars, so the customer reached over for it, very clearly moving her hand across my groin on the way. She also refused to sign her check unless she could write her number on my arm, and slapped my ass as I walked away. Another customer asked me for change, and I handed it to him as his other hand was on his junk, peeing in his front yard. Another customer, whose car interior was absolutely covered in cigarette ash and butts, told me about how her daughter recently got hooked on meth by her boyfriend, and how she hates black men because her black father left her as a child when he went to prison. I could go on. Edit. Sorry to break it to you all, but this service is in Fargo, ND, not Florida. Also, we drive the customer's car, are picked up by our partner in a follower car, and go to the next one. Story 9. Not exactly NSFW, but still a crazy experience that happened to my brother. He is a Lyft driver, and one day he was picking up our nurse from work and taking her home. She lived kind of far away, so they needed to take the freeway to get to it. They start shooting the crap, and my brother starts talking about how when he was a baby he had open heart surgery at the same hospital that she works in. Funny enough, this nurse has been in there during many open heart surgeries, so she knows a lot about them. She starts talking about them, and eventually goes into pretty graphic detail about how the surgery is done. Now, my brother has this problem where he passes out very easy while discussing or seeing medical procedures. He's done it 3 times before, once where he watched himself get an IV, once from seeing the pin in his toe after he had foot surgery, and once while they were discussing how to put a catheter in during EMT training. He wanted to be a firefighter, so sure as crap. After a little bit of hearing about the surgery, the nurse notices the car veering off to the left, crossing over a lane. She looks over at my brother and sees him passed out cold behind the wheel. She starts screaming and the car ends up veering off into a ditch on the side of the freeway. The nurse apparently forgets all her training and just freaking books it once the car stops. Apparently the smell coming from the deployed airbags smelled like smoke to her and she thought the car was going to blow up. My brother and the nurse were both physically fine, but his car is completely totaled. Story 10. Not exactly NSFW, but definitely my favorite story. I picked up a couple in their 30s on St. Patrick's Day this year at 2 a.m. They wanted to take about a 35-mile drive at 3x surge, so I was about to give the third highest paying fare I'd ever given. Great way to end the night. They had clearly been drinking like they were 20-somethings since early in the day. The wife, in the front seat, was super apologetic for the first 5 minutes or so, completely embarrassed about their level of intoxication, while the husband, in the back, was trying to be my new best friend. After 5 minutes or so though, the Sandman paid them a visit, and they both passed out. I drove for the next 20 minutes in relative peace. When we arrived in their driveway, the husband was sound asleep, and they had a half-inch of wet snow in their driveway, so I took the wife inside first. While on the way in, she appended her purse in the snow, but I was more focused on getting her safely inside. Once we got in, I helped her to the bathroom, and then went to the garage to get a snow shovel. I cleared a 4-wide path from the garage to the car so I could get the husband inside. He's a bigger guy, and I wanted to be safe and finally got him awake. I gave him my shoulder and got him inside. He begged me, please, just get me to the recliner. I can't make it to bed, so that's where we headed. All the while the wife is throwing up with the force of a small waterfall in the bathroom. I ran outside and grabbed the contents of her purse, which included her phone, absolutely soaked at this point, and came back inside. She begged me to rice her phone, so I started to dig through her cupboards for a bag and rice. While digging I came across their meds, and pulled some Advil, absorbed by kidneys, for them. I riced her phone, then gave them both Advil and water and told them to take more in the morning. They were gonna need it. Then I locked the door and showed myself out. In the end, I was dropping them off for well over half an hour, but the fare was awesome and the day was my second best day of driving, so it didn't really bug me. The kicker, they left me a 5-star review the next day. Pretty okay guy. Best ride ever. Obligatory healthcare provider edit. I promise I actually gave them Advil. I was typing that while very exhausted and hurriedly eating breakfast, and mixed up my drugs. I try not to poison my riders. When combining Advil with ETOH, don't take more than the recommended dose and combine with food and a fair amount of water to avoid GI issues up to and including bleeds. Also, my top-ranked post is about me taking some drunk folks home. Awesome. Obligatory edit number 2, thanks for the gold kind stranger. You're a pretty okay person. Hey fellow Redditors, I really appreciate being gilded for my first time, but you know what I love even more than a month without ads? Helping others out, rather than spending your money on me. If you really want to make my day, donate your time or money to a worthy cause. One that's near and dear to my heart is Bill Richards' Higgins Lake Forever Camp. Every 4th of July weekend, along with 30 or so other volunteers, I take about 120 adults with disabilities up to the Ralph A. McMullen Conference Center on the north side of Higgins Lake in Michigan. All expenses paid. For many, it's the only vacation they can afford to take all year. If you'd like to donate, you can send donations marked Bill Richards Higgins Lake Forever to Community Resource Volunteers, 34 North Brush Street, St. John's, MI 48879 or Peckham, Inc., 3510 Capital City Boulevard, Lansing, MI 48906. Hey guys, just found out you watched till the end. That is awesome also. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories.